Let me give a couple of examples, I think, of the ways in which litigation can figure into significant histories of social change. One is an area of prison reform. There's a terrific book written by Malcolm Feely and Ed Rubin that shows that in the 1970s that a number of judges, federal judges in the U.S., became very concerned about the issue of the conditions in U.S. prisons, and that that recognition paralleled and interacted with, at the same time, the concern about internal reform by a lot of corrections officers and managers of prisons. And there was a parallel movement that became interactive that led to quite dramatic levels of prison reform in the U.S. And that's a great example of courts being initiators of action and working with other players to achieve significant kinds of reform. A second example is a very recent book. I was just talking about it the other day by a scholar named Chuck Epp called Making Rights Real. And it's a terrific book because he looks at the struggle over police accountability and the issue of excessive police force and violence. And what he shows is that one of the primary issues that led to the civil rights movement in the 1930s and 40s was police violence against African Americans in the South. And in the 1950s and 1960s, significant numbers of attorneys began to take that issue up and bring tort-like lawsuits, mostly in local courts, but also in some federal courts. But it's mostly a local issue. And in bringing those lawsuits, what they did was to put on the agenda the issue of police abuse, generated lots of attention, but they also put police chiefs and internal leaders in police departments on the defensive at first, but then began to lead to questioning about, well, maybe there really are issues of police abuse, maybe we need to begin to do something. So they began to professionalize police forces, to increase rule-based training that restricted the use of force, that set out the conditions for the use of force, that trained police officers in how to respect the rights of assumed alleged perpetrators, and to professionalize police department in a very legalized kind of way. And what he shows is those lawsuits are what began that process. But it was the outside activists who began that process and then continued to hold the threat of suing for liability of police departments that abuse citizen rights, along with, in concert with the internal desires of reformers to transform police departments from the inside, that those two factors together have led to a dramatic change, not a complete change. We still have problems of excessive police violence, but it's dramatically different by the 1990s and the contemporary period as it was 40 or 50 years ago.